After playing Forza Horizon 5, I had little interest in Gran Turismo 7. I'd had enough of racing games. It wasn't until I actually sat down and gave the game a try one afternoon that I realized I really did want to play it. The game has a sense of realism and agency that few other racing games match. Although I had enjoyed Forza, Gran Turismo 7 felt a lot harsher and consequently more thrilling. GT7 lets you place decals on your car to create and share custom liveries. It's quite a competent system, and I've had fun making some liveries as well as downloading those shared by others. I'm glad that it can also be used to customize racing suits, as this mitigates the disappointment of not being able to play a female character. Like, come on, just let me be girl. Mechanical customization is good too, with many grades and options for parts and modifications, and detailed tuning options available for custom parts. I told myself I wasn't going to get into tweaking every aspect of cars like I had in GT5, but it wasn't long before it drew me in. I'd forgotten most of what I knew about tuning, but the in-game descriptions let me slowly make my way from overwhelmed to confident. The only problem is that some of the best parts are locked behind roulette tickets, which I'll get into later. The game's campaign consists of finishing menus by collecting specific cars for a cafe-owning NPC. Usually, a menu will have about 3 cars for you to collect by winning them as prizes for getting third or better in certain races. After completing a menu, you'll get an extra reward and access to another menu. You'll probably already have 1 car eligible to compete in the races, so you rarely need to buy cars. Even on the highest difficulty, it's usually not necessary to upgrade your cars in the early game, which is good because the credit rewards for winning are so abysmally low that you won't make a profit if you shell out to hot up your vehicle. I've played a few past Gran Turismo games, from Gran Turismo 3 A-Spec to Gran Turismo 6. The way I always remember the game being was that you'd buy a car that you needed to enter a race, upgrade it a little to make it competitive, then use it for a number of races before being awarded another car that was often suitable for the next races in the campaign. GT7, in comparison, seems to shower you in cars. This has diluted what I find to be the quintessential Gran Turismo experience. Most of the game was quite easy, allowing me to win without much skill or strategy. Given that you swap through cars so quickly, you don't develop much sense of attachment to your cars. Consequently, it doesn't feel like there's much point in using the custom livery system when you likely won't be using the car that you customized for more than a few races. Gran Turismo 7 was the first GT game I ever completed, and it took me about a month. I don't know if I got halfway through GT5, and I'm pretty sure I played it for a lot longer than I did GT7. The brevity of the campaign is a critique I've seen echoed online, but to me, there's no part that feels more lacking than the rally races. There are only 3 dirt tracks in the game. In order to complete all the menus, you're only required to complete 3 rally races, and one of them uses a road course rather than a dirt one. I remember rally actually being a significant part of the game in the past, and including a variety of tracks with different surfaces like snow. Even though there are a decent variety of rally cars, there's scarcely any reason to drive them. After completing a few menus, you'll be assigned a championship, a series of 2 to 5 races that must be completed in sequence without changing cars, although you can adjust your tuning. As a reward, in addition to cash, your first clear will give you a random new car from a set of 3, usually useful for your next menu. Personally, I prefer this to the menu rewards, as the randomness means that most players will have a unique experience, driving similar but different cars. It's also an example of an actually satisfying and meaningful reward system in the game, which brings us to roulette tickets. Roulette tickets are prizes which come in 6 main variations, from 1 star to 6 star, each offering rewards of varying value. They give a single reward which is predetermined when they're acquired. When redeemed, they show an annoyingly long animation of spinning prizes, giving the illusion that you nearly won something else, almost invariably something better. Sometimes, rewards are shown which are not actually available at the rarity of ticket you have. This is, in my opinion, one of the worst systems in the game. You get a fair amount of tickets from completing menus, but once you've finished them, you'll likely not have many, if any, of the roulette exclusive parts you want, and from that point you can only get one ticket per day. This wouldn't be so bad, except as you may have guessed, most tickets don't give very satisfying rewards. Generally, you'll get between 2 or 10,000 credits and a non-roulette exclusive part for a car that you don't own. Though 10,000 credits is significant compared to the prizes in early game races, by the end of the game, you'd be hard-pressed to find a race that doesn't award at least that much for first place. Roulette tickets are unrewarding and too infrequent to compensate and actually add anything to the game's experience. I find this doubly frustrating, as you can tell that Polyphony Digital know how to build a decent randomized reward system, as evidenced by the more reliable and satisfying rewards that championships give. The only point in their favour is that you can't buy them with real money, so they aren't technically illegal gambling. Once you've completed the menus, which do a decent job of guiding you through a variety of race types and other content, and start building up a diverse car collection, there's not a lot left to do. There are non-menu races, so I made sure I had golds in all of them, in addition to those from the menu that I'd missed. A lot of these other races left over are endurance races, one area that the menus didn't introduce terribly well, as I remember having to work out fuel and tyre management myself. License tests and circuit experiences challenge you to complete anything from a short section of track to an entire lap to earn a gold, silver or bronze trophy for your time. They could have been used to pad the campaign, but most aren't required for completion. They're quite challenging, but they provide no reward for failure, so pushing myself to improve feels like a waste of time compared to the money I could get for doing a single endurance race. If I got some kind of payout or random prize for the amount of time I spent playing the game, I could see myself getting into these events, but as it is, they just feel frustrating and like a waste of time. Missions are a similar mode with the same issues. Lastly is Sport, Gran Turismo's online mode. As a primarily PC gamer, I balk at having to pay for an online subscription, so I haven't tried it myself. From what I've seen on the GT subreddit though, it's plagued by overly aggressive, dirty drivers who'll ram you off the road, and they get away with it thanks to a lax penalty system, so I don't think I'm missing out on too much. All the game boils down to for me is collecting cars for the sake of it, which would be significantly more rewarding if I could use them in split screen. Local multiplayer forces player 2 to use default driving assist settings, which are quite restrictive in terms of how the car handles, giving P1 a huge advantage. The game feels really bad with these default settings, and it's not competitive or even particularly fun for player 2. Many cars cost a lot of credits, which take a while to accrue. The most efficient method is by repeating one of 4 endurance races, which have vastly superior payouts per hour than any other races in the game. Amongst those, one of them is clearly superior, able to be completed in less time than other events, therefore paying much better for the time invested. It can be difficult to find and tune cars to complete these races, and if you mess up, you've wasted a fair amount of time, so I usually find myself sticking to a single tried and true vehicle that I've found to be efficient. I'm not ready to give up on the game, but it's not really as fun as it once was, seeing as all that seems worth doing is one race over and over. Despite impressive, realistic graphics, a wealth of rewarding customization options, and a highly enjoyable driving model, Gran Turismo 7 isn't exactly leading the pack. Its content can quickly be exhausted, and at a certain point it starts to feel like you're simply driving in a circle. Compared to its predecessors, the game offers graphical improvement in exchange for the loss of many features that appeared in previous versions. There are some things I haven't even touched on too, like the lack of ability to sell cars. Hopefully future updates could improve it, but it's likely that a lot of my complaints won't ever be addressed, because as a live service, being shitty and unrewarding is working as intended.